Here we go. Here's our ocker. We bought an ocker.
Have we got rocks in our head? We bought an ocker.
Yep, we did. And we love it.
Morning YouTube. Welcome to episode 8 in our rocker rebuild series. That last episode was quite a long one with the doors. Well, I'm still not finished with the doors yet. I went down and paid Dane from West Coast Ocker Spares a visit yesterday and bought a few bits and pieces. So I'll flip you around and show you what we've got here. Okay, so we've picked up various bits. I've got some door skins there. I've also got the inner door cards made out of fiberglass. Where else are we? Some windscreen channel, which I've just been working on at the moment. A couple of a nose cone panels sitting there. Coffin panel. So I'm just sort of test fitting everything at the moment. What I found with this, what door is this? The passenger side door. The driver's side door skin fits perfectly. But yeah, I think I've screwed up a little bit here with this one. If I get it fitting over that, then it sits about 5mm down. So I'm going to, let's just move that out of the way. Bear with us a sec. So yeah, what I think I've done here is I've just welded this on, this angled piece and this piece, probably about 3 or 4mm out on that. So I'm just going to cut that off and move it over a little bit so it fits that door skin perfectly. And then after I've done that, I'll give all these panels a coat with some 2-pack epoxy primer and get them ready for fitting. But I've been working on this. This is the windscreen channel. Oh, I haven't measured it. What's that? Looks, I don't know, 15 by 15 or 15 by 10 or something. I'm going to have to finesse. Like, that's in there quite tight. There's a bit too much tension on that now. So I'm going to have to finesse these corner pieces a little bit where it's been patched before, and just make sure it sits in there nice and square. I'll give that a coat of primer as well, and a coat of 2-pack just satin black, and then I'll tack that into place, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay. So yeah, I've sort of been measuring everywhere. There's only maybe 2 to 3mm in it, so I wasn't out by much, but enough to matter. So we'll take this off and I'll cut this this other section off. Just whack a clamp over there so we can get in here. No power. Oh, I wish I had a bigger shed. I'm jealous of Dane's shed down there. Something like that would be ideal. Right, excuse the background there. That's all of Brenda's stuff for her home-based business. But yeah, I finished off. I gave all these panels a primer coat yesterday, front and back. And today I've decided to move on to, I test fitted this windscreen. I put this windscreen channel in and I clipped the rubber all around. But what I've found is these corners aren't quite radiused correctly, so there's a bit of a gap. I've been tossing up whether to cut this out, weld a patch in, but what I think I'm going to do is just build it up with some weld and grind and file it back, or die grind and get it back to a proper radius. So there's I want to make sure there's no leaks in here, so we'll get into that. Yeah, I'll get into that in a sec. Got my welding blanket there. But when this thing came here, when I bought it, it leaked like a bloody sieve. And I'm pretty sure these sections here have been patched previously. And obviously they just haven't quite got the radius correct. And a bit of me on the other ones here, maybe when I ground the old windscreen angle off. But anyway, we can fix it. Well, it took me a while. Probably would have been easier getting some flat bar, but I would have needed 100 by 100 or 100 mil wide flat bar. But Bunnies don't only sell 75, so I persevered. I've got that radius good enough to weld this strip in, I think. And once I clamp that up the top, that'll be in a pretty good spot too. I'll have enough, a small enough gap to weld easily. So I'm just going to tack this in place. Okay, well, I've managed to get the windscreen angle welded in there. I just stopped, sort of sorted out the radius on these corners a bit, welding them out a bit. I've tacked it all in there. Yeah, I'll still maybe need to tidy that up a bit. See, I've masked it all off because I'm going to put seam sealer down in there to make sure it doesn't leak. And hopefully I've got it welded in the right place. I guess we'll see when it comes time to fit the windscreen. If not, I guess I'll have to do it again. Alright, so this is where we're at. I've welded in the windscreen surround and done a few patch ups. Put some seam sealer right around the lip of the windscreen. I've gone around with a bit of a body filler as sort of best I can, but anything you can see there now will be hidden by the windscreen rubber anyway. And yeah, I think it's looking alright. So yeah, fair bit of dicking around with that, you know, rubbing it back to hide the... I've actually fully welded the corners in and then just spot welded the rest of it. The corners were a bit different, a bit hard to explain, but anyway. And I've also given this front nose cone panel a bit of a rub back. This is like the bonnet, I guess you would call it, and a couple of nose cone panels, giving them a hit with some epoxy undercoat. I'll need to go over this with a bit of body filler and then coat it again once this is dry, because there's quite a bit of waviness in that, so we'll get it all nice and flat. And yeah, I'll probably paint these nose cone panels at least. They'll be in a different colour. They'll be in like a sunset orange sort of colour for now at least. And then I'll assemble them all back onto here. I can't touch them now because they're still wet with paint. And I'll I'll give them 24 hours at least. Probably be next weekend. When I give them a top coat. Good news is my engine is leaving Victoria on Monday, so I'm hoping to have that before Christmas. Should have it by the end of next week. The bad news is that's basically exhausted my funds for now, so I'm just going to carry on with jobs that don't cost me a lot of money for the moment, but there should be plenty of those to do. Whoop, nearly fell over. Alrighty. Well, I'm pretty excited today. We've got a package has arrived into our workshop. I'll get it home later, but I'll turn you around and we'll have a look at what's in there, in this crate here. Yes, very exciting times. There's the engine for the Ocker. Brand spanking new 6BT. And I've gone with the option for the gear-driven compressor as well. There's a couple other bits and pieces in there. Some brake rotors down the bottom for Dane at West Coast Ocker Spares, and yeah, there's an air tank down here for the engine-driven compressor. But she all looks pretty smick. But I'll once I get this crate unpacked, which will probably be a while. I'll sit this at home for a while, and yeah, I'll go right over it, work out what has to go where, and then drop it into the Ocker. Happy days. Okay, well, it's been a while since I filmed that last video after I'd welded in the windscreen surround, but yeah, I'm waiting on parts arriving. It's sort of holding me up a bit, so I've been dicking around a bit with painting this windscreen. I've had to rub it back a couple of times because, yeah, let's face it, I'm not the best at preparing for paint. I really don't like it. But I've given a few bits and pieces of coat of paint, and now I'm about to throw a bit of sunset orange on some of this stuff out here and see how it looks. I did go and get some Raptor paint today. I won't be coating anything with that today, but that's why I'm not too worried about minor blemishes in the paint, because I'll cover it up with a Raptor anyway. Okay, let's get sorted out here and get into it. Yeah, I'll have to sort my bloody mask out. I tore the bloody strap off it, so I'll just finish what paint I had, and I'll yeah, get another mask tomorrow or something. But yeah, I don't mind this colour. It should dry all right, I think. I'll have to touch up a bit more of the black. That's the sun visor and a couple of nose cone panels there. I'm just wanted to get a coat on them before I fit them, particularly on the inside. The back of the cab, you won't see most of that once the bus body's up against it. Yeah, she's a bit rough, but it'll look all right if you squint, eh? All right, let's probably be enough for me today. I have been doing a lot, even though I haven't been filming a lot. There's just a lot of stuff that's a bit too sort of boring to film, you know. Like, I'm sure you just don't want to see me spending hours sanding stuff back and painting it and then realise I haven't sanded it well enough and sanding it back again and painting it again. I've done that a few times, but like I said, I think the Raptor coat will cover most of the blemishes, and I'd rather it look more like a sort of a tough bush truck than a big glossy bloody pavement princess, you know. So yeah, I'm just sort of gave her a bit of a test spray around the doors to see what it looked like. I've got to rub back the windscreen bit a bit. I wanted a smooth coat on this when I put the windscreen in, and then I'll Raptor coat, I'll mask off around the windscreen rubber. I didn't want Raptor coat under the rubber. But when I resprayed this morning, I bloody forgot to go over it with a cloth, and Yeah, there was a little bit of dust over it, so I'll give that a quick 400 grit sand back and give it another coat of black tomorrow. All right, we're getting there slowly but surely. Okay, been carrying on doing a bit more painting in here. I need to go over this again. I'll just sort of, well, it'll get done with Raptor anyway. And, there's a sun visor, the cab. I'll put the nose cones on the cab. I've just Sikaflex them in place for the moment, and I'll let that dry. I'm going to put a few spot welds here and there on them to make sure they don't fall off. But yeah, slowly making progress. Painted up the headlight surrounds and whatnot, and a few other bits and pieces that I just trying to work out my colour scheme at the moment. Yeah, coming along. Should look good when she's all done. Okay, good morning YouTube. Another day, another, well, I wouldn't say $1, but another day that I'll spend working on the Yoka. What we did yesterday was, yeah, just did a bit of preliminary painting, and we put these, I'll flip yous around. Yeah, we put the, I've just Sikaflexed those nose cone panels on. So what I'm going to do this morning, I'll tidy all that up. I'll whack a few spot welds on these panels. I'm also going to put some spot welds on this cover in the, I guess you'd call it the air tunnel, where the radiator and that sits. And yeah, we'll see how we go. I'll tidy all that up. Once I've welded these sections on, I'll get some more Sikaflex in there and let that dry, and then I'll yeah, get a bit of body filler out and smooth all this out, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's get into it. Okay, well, it's not pretty as usual with my welding, but once I get some body filler and stuff over that, you'll never see it. And those nose cone panels aren't going there, or that little bloody cover. And just whacked a few spot welds on the back here as well. All right, we'll keep going. I'll get a bit of silicone in there and let it dry, and then I'll body filler over that, smooth all that out, and then we can repaint all that section. Okay, so moving on from the painting, I've got to give that Sikaflex at least a day or two to dry before I paint over it. I've decided I'm going to modify this dashboard with new gauges and things. So I'm just going to pull it all apart for the moment, and work a few things out. I'm just pulling these gauges out. Oh, that's got to come out. And I'm plugging them back into the wires so I don't sort of lose track of what cables go where. Yeah, video gear is very good, but I'd just rather something that's a bit more modern, to be honest. Well, that should be everything disconnected, I think. Alright, well that's the dashboard wiring harness removed. Let's put that over here for the moment. Alright, so all that wiring harness is out. What the plan is, there's one gauge left. Had no, oh no, sorry, that's just a blanket. So if you look at this, yeah, these standard gauge holes, I can't remember the exact ins off the top of my head, but they're bigger than the switches I want to use, which are like a Carling Contura 4 or 5. I do have a single DIN fascia plate coming up that'll fit 6 switches. That would fit in there. The gauges are pretty standard 52mm size, so that won't be an issue. What I need to work out is, do I just replace this whole section? Shouldn't be too difficult to do. Maybe it'd be a bit harder than I think. I'd have to bend up and weld in another section, I guess. Either that or I just patch these holes. Modify it to suit what I need. But anyway, I'll have a bit of a think about it. I'll give you a look at that when it's all done. It probably won't happen today, but yeah, I'll have to do that before I take it into the hydro dipping place for a quote. Alrighty. Well, I decided I'll remove that front fascia section, and I'm sort of regretting it because, man, what a pain in the ass. There's a lot of spot welds along there. Some of them not easy to get into. I've had to butcher it up a bit. But what I'll do, I'll work out what gauges I want. Whether I draw up a plan first and get it lasered up and folded, or just get a blank piece folded up and work it out later. It should be, what do we got? Let's hold that. There we go. All right, done. Okay. Sort of dented a couple of little bits up, but I'll tack them down and give that all a good coat. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the laser cutters would need. I do have CAD at work, but I'm not real good with it, so maybe I'll have a crack and see what I can come up with. It'd certainly be a lot easier if I could decide everything I wanted first and have it all laser cut to suit. That might be the go, I think. Even if I get someone to do it for me, I'll find somebody. Alrighty. That might do me for today, I think. Okay, so this is the dashboard I've been designing in Autodesk Fusion for the Ocker. I didn't sort of like the layout of the old one with the old switches and things, so what I'm thinking of doing is changing over to JRP gauges to give it a bit more of a modern look. These holes for the speedo and tacho in this drawing, I've got them at 80mm. Because JRP is supposed to be releasing some 80mm speedo and tacho gauges. Not sure when, but I've allowed enough space in this drawing. If they don't release them in time, I can increase these holes to 100mm to accommodate the standard gauges. The rest of these are just 52mm standard gauge holes, which I'll modernise a bit. These are for your, similar to the Oka, like your warning lights, handbrake alternator, that sort of thing. All these over here will be switches. The standard Oka switches are sort of larger size. I like the look of the Carling Contura switches, so these holes are all will all be cut to suit the Carling Contura 5 series. And the double DIN I'm not sure on yet. I can get a Meckless unit that's got a short chassis. Meckless just means it doesn't have a CD player and that. But I may go with a single DIN with a floating head. I'm not sure yet, but I'll wait till I buy the stereo to finalise all this drawing. But I've in Fusion I've sort of organised all the bends and folds and that, you know, to fit this back into the dash. All the top and side corners are 20mm, which I'll have bent at 90 degrees. The bottom's 20mm, which is 107 degrees. And yeah, hopefully we can, yeah, I'll come up with a final design, but that's where I'm at the moment. So we'll have a look at that and see how it goes. So carrying on with yeah, putting these side cones on, and I've ended up rubbing quite a bit of this back because I'm not a panel beater, and I wasn't quite happy with the finish. You know, I could see quite a few ripples. There's still some there, but that's going to be good enough. But yeah, I'm reasonably happy with the way that's come up. Of course, once you put the top coat on, it becomes a lot easier to see any imperfections, but I think when I go over that with Raptor coat, you won't notice any of that. So I'll prepare a few more things, and yeah, I don't know if I'll spray a top coat on that at the moment. It seems a bit of a waste, I guess. I sort of go about things arse about face, but I'm a bit impatient and like to see what things are going to look like. I'm going to paint the top section of this, just this bar across here, in like the orange, burnt orange colour. Give a bit of contrast there on the front. Okay. So I've ended up giving the nose cones and a coat of paint and a bit more of the orange around the place. And I'm reasonably happy with the way it's come up. And what I'm doing now, I've sanded back a bit inside the cab and that, just sanding it, getting ready. I'll put an initial coat of black on that. But what I found over here is there's about 14 or 15 holes for some reason in there. I don't know what they were used for. They must have had something in there. And I can't sort of weld that. I've already got my heat shielding and stuff underneath. So what I'm going to do is use a little trick of just countersunk those holes very slightly, and I'll drop a bit of solder into these and then flatten all that off, and we'll see how we go. So I'm just going to use my little gas soldering iron. I can't find me bloody electric one. It's here somewhere, but we'll see how that goes, and yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, well, it wasn't pretty, but it worked. I think the secret is you really got to make sure you've got that bit of countersink in there for the for the solder to sort of cling on to, you know, rather than just the edge of a hole. Anyway, my soldering skills haven't improved, but job done. This will all get painted and covered with some sound deadening heat shielding anyway. But I just didn't want the holes under there. This is where we're at. I've given the inside a coat of black. Still a bit of touching up to do. I've got to get a few bolts today. I sort of want to just piece together this front end, work out how everything goes back together, and work out the final colour scheme. So yeah, I've got a few bits and that to paint out here. Still waiting on some parts to arrive. So yeah, maybe the next step, I I might move on to repairing the engine, I think. Preparing the engine, I should say. And yeah, maybe over the next couple of weeks I'll drop that engine and gearbox and that in and work out what I've got to do for the transfer case mounting. Right, this is where we're at. I've basically just test fitted everything to the front to make sure it's all going to fit, and a little bit of finessing needed here and there, but she should be good. I'm just trying to work out the colour scheme, because what I'll probably do is just do a line or something up here and up here, leave that black and make the outside edges of that the same colour orange, mainly so I can put the ochre decal over on that side. But, I was going to do a bit of painting today outside here, a few parts I need to touch up and finish off, but yeah, she's a bit too windy, and unless the wind drops I really don't want to paint. So anyway, we'll move on, and yeah, I'll catch us on the next video. Cheers.